Yo, big news of one of the biggest and most highly anticipated Cosmos chains that is now about to go live. And those news are around Evmos. It's basically an EVM compatible Cosmos chain that also implements IBC, which is the native interoperability standard of the Cosmos ecosystem. And the big thing is that they just released their tokenomics in detail, of which 40% of the Genesis supply is being airdropped to the community, to Ethereum users, to DeFi users, but also to cosmonauts and atom holders and stakers. And if you think that this is interesting, then please, number one, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Number two, like this video, share it with 1 or 2 friends. And number three, also make sure to watch the entire thing. Before I talk about the tokenomics, and there's a lot of crazy innovative angles from which they took it. They basically took tokenomics to the next level. Big shout out for Evmos for being the main sponsor of Cryptocito here of my channel. They are supporting me, and I'm really grateful for this collaboration. The team is fantastic. Liam, Federico, Akash, and Nico, they're really doing amazing work. And yeah, please go visit their website, evmos.org. And also, if you're on the website, if you go on the bottom left, you can see here that you can directly go to their Twitter, right? Which in my opinion is probably the best place to stay up to date with updates around the projects. And here they just released the tokenomics article, which we're gonna go through in a second. Also, Federico, one of the co-founders, shared his thoughts. So we're gonna look into that too. But yeah, join the Discord as well, join their Telegram group, and also give them a follow here on Twitter. So big shout out for Evmos to be sponsoring Cryptocito. And now let's look into the tokenomics. So the main mission of the Evmos tokenomics is basically to realign those 3 main parties of any blockchain protocol, which are developers, that are those people that are building applications, that are writing code, and they're just enhancing and adding value to the layer 1, to the underlying smart contract platform in the first place. Then you have validators who are responsible to provide network security, to also decentralize it and make sure that it is robust. And then you have end users. But the main premise is here that there is an imbalance between those 3 parties, right? Between those 3 actors, which is that usually, historically, the node operators or the validators usually capture most of the block rewards, right? They usually capture most of the financial monetary reward for maintaining and securing the chain, right? But what about the users that are paying gas fees? What about the developers that are building applications, right? They usually are left with less, even though they are the most active participants, right? If we look at the Genesis distribution of Evmos tokens, there will be 200 million Evmos that are minted at Genesis. 40% of which is 80 million Evmos tokens, are being airdropped to the community. They released this reg drop article a couple of weeks ago, which talks about a retrospective gas drop. It also talks about basically bailing out people that got wrecked in hacks or exploits or any sort of things that went wrong in Ethereum DeFi, but also to atom holders, atom stakers, Osmosis LPs, and a lot of other participants in the Cosmos ecosystem. Then there's a 10% community pool, which is the DAO treasury, and then 50% is reserved for strategic endeavors. We can look into details there in a second. 200 million is the Genesis supply. And also a lot of people have asked me that there will be no sale of pre-mined Evmos tokens. So there's not going to be any sort of public sale or any sort of token sale event. So you will get most of your coins airdropped, and if not, there will be pretty high incentives early on to get hands on Evmos tokens. So as you can see here, we start at 200 million, and then there's a hyperinflation phase in the first year or 2, and then the curve kind of like flattens a little bit. Then you have the airdrop that stays flat, and obviously there will be a time also where you have to claim your airdrop. And if not, it will potentially get clawed back into the community pool, which is something that we've seen with Osmosis, right? The target is to have 1 billion Evmos tokens after 4 years, where the supply or the issuance decreases every epoch, which is every 365 days or every year, basically. So you can also like see $1 billion Evmos. You can also play around. Okay, what benchmark do we have of other EVM compatible smart contract platforms, like for example Moonbeam that just went live with a GLMR token. What price these guys are achieving, right? And I think Moonbeam is above $10. So not obviously not going to say any sort of like financial direction or advice where this could go, but just to have this on your map and get a feeling for numbers. The block rewards are divided as follows: 40% are distributed as staking rewards, 25% for the team, 10% of the block rewards go to the community treasury, and then 25% go as usage incentives, which is something that I've not seen elsewhere before. And this is basically the entire logic behind the whole methodology, that you have usage incentives to drive users and give users more Evmos tokens, which they can then spend on services that are being built on Evmos, which then means devs make fees from the base layer, but also get more TVL, and then validators vote on incentives to bring more growth, which then has this positive feedback loop, and kind of like reinforces the cycle by itself. So that's the whole game plan behind the whole methodology. Now, another part of the usage incentives is liquidity mining. So it's to incentivize the increase of TVL. There will be around, in the 4 years, 200 million Evmos tokens dedicated to that. So, and it will be fully in the hands of governance. So you'll also be able to vote and say, propose idea on how these liquidity incentives should be placed, and how they should work. In terms of fees, they have a very interesting thing, which is that they implement EIP 1559, which I've covered extensively on my channel a couple of months ago already. But instead of burning the base fee, the base fee will be redistributed and put to work. So that's very interesting. How that will play out in reality. We've already seen on Ethereum that a lot of ETH is being burned, which kind of like decreases the inflation. Now, the big thing here is the dApp store, which is this revenue share model for developers, that they also earn part of their transaction fees from users for the products that they are building, which I think makes a lot of sense, because usually you have the only way that developers can bootstrap their product and also have kind of like financial revenue with it is to apply for a grant, but that's basically just a one-time thing, and is also not really dependent and connected to the success of the dApp, right? However, here, similar to what in the current App Store, the way it works is that you earn per sale that you make of your app on the App Store, and also Apple, as the provider of that platform, earns, right? So in that way, also the dApp Store will provide a revenue source for developers that are building applications. The second biggest innovation here, I think, that has been like long overdue in Cosmos, is IBC Relay Fee Rebates. So for those that are not familiar with IBC, it's this interoperability standard in Cosmos that connects all chains. Because in Cosmos, actually every chain is a layer 1, right? Stargaze is a layer 1, Akash is a layer 1, Sentinel, Osmosis, Cosmos Hub itself, right? Evmos is a layer 1. And in order to make them all connected to each other and interoperable, there is this thing called IBC, which requires you to set up a specific channel between each of these chains, right? So, for example, if Evmos now goes live, they will have to set up IBC channels to all these other chains, which are very, very hard to, costly to maintain and to run, right? So Evmos implements a new way baked into the tokenomics, that IBC transactions are being rebated by at least 50%, which is really cool. And that's a blessing for a lot of these IBC relayers out there. So yeah, that's really cool. That's really innovative. We talked about the IBC routing module that is being implemented on the Cosmos Hub, that also helps to build a fee model around Atom that can be used to route IBC traffic through the Cosmos Hub. But also, I think we'll see more and more of this, where you have relayers, relayer DAOs. Jack is also working on some things like that, or just natively built into the protocol like Evmos is doing, and give a rebate, which is at least a compensation. In terms of validators, there are going to be 150 active validators in the beginning. I think they had over 2,000 applications, which is completely crazy. Yeah, from the 150 active validators, there will also be a minimum commission rate of 5%, which I think is very good, because there have been a lot of validators that come with these 0% dumping prices and just run delegations, and at one point they just increased them to make revenue. But 5% I think is very fair. That's also what Stakecito has on all the 13 chains that we are validating on. So yeah, the validator side looks really, really good on Evmos. And then last but not least, the reg drop. So many people got wrecked. I covered this in an article. I covered the article already before, but 80 million Evmos tokens will be distributed. And a snapshot was already taken November 25th at 7 p.m. UTC. So there will be a separate claiming portal where you can have several steps that you need to complete in order to make sure you get the airdrop. So the conclusion is that Evmos is bringing tokenomics to the next level. The Evmos token, in my opinion, can accrue a lot of value because it just aligns the interest of all parties involved. And it also kind of like is being used as this fuel of the entire platform, right? That's something that for a smart contract platform is really, really crucial. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how that plays out in the future. Obviously, everybody's super excited about the airdrop. So make sure to, again, follow them on Twitter to not miss out any updates or details on that. And also, I strongly recommend you guys to read Federico's thoughts on how they chose and why they chose this token model. For example, took a lot of inspiration from Osmosis Zone, from Stargaze, from Terra, but also from Avax, Polygon, Moonbeam. And yeah, go over to follow them, join the community, ask questions, make sure to not miss out on your airdrop. And I hope you appreciate that video. Stay safe, guys. Be good. We'll see you in the next one.